Hello and welcome to the space between ideas. I'm playing Gates. Welcome back to this chaos. If you're new to the channel, we've been attempting to do a little software project for approximately 10 years. And I don't know, for some reason, have we made any progress? Are things changing? Improvement? Is something happening? It's a good question. Before we get there, let's take a look at the latest work. So I've been doing a little bit of work. I made a video last week where I was just kind of, the thing is about these LLMs, these what do you call them? Let me just share my screen. All right. So the thing is about like Gemini and these ChatGPT and stuff like that is that I've really been thinking about the concept and the process for creating calibration documents. So, for example, in this little project here, I have like the project blueprint, the team operations manual, and so forth. And I've created quite a bit of information, especially during the Arrowhead project, for how to work with the LLM, especially if you're using the LLM in order to prompt the uh, the AI software development tool, the IDE. Then I started this new project. Well, at least I started thinking about it, and as you can see, I also have the same set of five calibration documents: project blueprint, team operations manual, key decisions log, active sprint operation, and project sprint review log. Then what happened? So the thing that happened is I started talking to Chat or Google Gemini. Anyways, let's see. This let's figure out what we were talking about. I got these two windows that I'm working with. They are outside of the work that we have been working on in the past. And it kind of represents a little bit of a new direction. And the new direction is that a question that people are always asking is, how are you going to monetize? How are you going to make money? And also, these days, everyone expects that there's going to be some trial process. There's going to be some kind of free version. So, like, if we look at the concept of inbound marketing, then we can see very clearly that we have the attract, engage, delight cycle. You see, there's this circle. It's like a wheel, and so we're attracting. So first we create awareness. There you see her, and then consideration when you start talking about needs and solutions, and then finally somebody makes a decision. When they become your customer, then your full focus is to delight your customers so that your customers become promoters. Now let's compare the concept of attract and engage. You see the green is the combination of yellow and blue. So, anyways, here we go. We got know and like. So the know and like aspect is usually your social media, your advertising. It's the way that you reach out to your customer, the where your promoters are going to be giving some reviews and some word of mouth marketing, and any other way that you connect with your potential audience. And then boom, they come to your website, like they're going to click your lead magnet. They're onto your website, and then you're going to be trying to give them something for free. Or you're trying to get them to use your product. So either you're trying to get their contact information, you're trying to get some way to reach out to them, you're trying to find a way to enter them into your, well, it's a sales funnel. So you just want to keep going down, 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 down. Now this is the question here. Well, what I'm talking about with try. So everybody kind of has a free tier to their apps these days. And if you don't have a free tier, then how do you get people to try? Because it's really hard to get them to buy if they haven't tried your little situation. Now, on the left side, of course, here's an executive summary. So, executive summary development of a calibration AI framework. The initial goal was to establish a collaborative framework wherein the AI assistant could understand and assist with a user's sophisticated project management and decision making methodologies. The ultimate purpose is to produce a set of calibration documents that encapsulate these methodologies and enable both advanced personal use and providing a teaching basis for students. Ah, yeah. Okay. Initial exploration and evolution. The conversation began with the user outlining a project management philosophy based on the hierarchy of a vision, objectives, tasks, linked to dual scoreboards of productivity and market share. We talked about SWOT analysis, communication method, the corporate menu, the four-stroke endeavor, the specific thinking modules, documentation process, strategic outcomes, and next steps. We will create a core calibration core, expert layer, transcript of the collaborative process itself will serve as a curriculum for students. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's working exactly as I thought it would. And then let's go over here. So the executive summary here is okay. So two project leader HSE application from Gemini Assistant. Okay, I'm getting an email from Gemini Assistant. This document summarizes our extensive analysis of the headlight, steering wheel, engine application project, tracing the evolution from initial concept to a refined strategic path forward. The initial assessment and focus strategy, we began by organizing a comprehensive list of project management templates into a phased approach aligned with the lean startup methodology. Is that what we did? Project definition, HSE application blueprint. So that is true, actually. So I went through in an earlier video, I went through this HSE, the headlight, steering wheel, engine concept. And this is also the wireframe of the application that I'm now building. And yeah, it's taking a long time to build it. That's true. I decided to move away from Cursor. That's also true. Since Windsurf and Cursor are so similar, I think it's better just to pick one and then go with it. Based on the changes that these apps have been making recently, and based on the things that they're, um, what they seem to represent, and based on their ownership strategy, I think that Windsurf is going to win the competition. The basic idea is that Cursor wants to become more and more focused on helping professional developers. And Windsurf is now owned by ChatGPT, who is interested, or at least they have a huge amount of knowledge for general users, and they will always have a huge market share for the general uh, GPT user base. And so the amount of data that ChatGPT gets over time is going to increase. And I'm not sure if Cursor is going to be able to keep up. So at some point, ChatGPT or Windsurf is going to produce better outcomes than Cursor, and then people will start to move to Cursor. Anyways, I don't know if that's true, but that's just my feeling based on this methodology of thinking. Now, the issue is here is that after I started telling the concept to Gemini, like this whole app, actually the reason I started talking to Gemini about this app was because I went into a website called, what's it called? I don't remember. Was it Monday.com? Yeah, it was Monday.com. So they sent me another email and they're like, hey, try our app for like another 7 days for free. I was like, all right, cool. And then you see the recently visited. So I clicked up the word template. How do we do that now? Quick search. Uh, hmm, maybe say we click plus, and we go into the template center. Now, I thought this was really interesting, especially since you can sort it by installs. All right, so you can see that we have like 56,000 people use this template. It's a project roadmap. Then somebody uses this other one for features and releases roadmap. We got the product development, we got single project, we got sprint retrospective, we got agile project management. Well, it's in the recommended for you. So let's jump out of this and go to all templates, sorting by installs. Yeah. Okay. So we got the content calendar, social media planner, monday.com basic training, customer project, event management, project development, marketing strategy, design weekly tasks, digital asset management, IT service desk, Monday marketer, project roadmap, Kanban software development, marketing activities, creative processes, creative requests, email marketing. Then we've got real estate. So what's going on here? What are the main themes here? So obviously content calendar, social media. So that's marketing. Then we got customer projects. All right. So that's project management. So far we got manager. We got, okay. So what would a customer project actually be? So that's services to customers. So far we got marketing, and then we got service to customers, got event management, and we got product development. And we got marketing, another one for marketing, another one for design weekly tasks, digital asset management, IT service desk, Monday marketing. So we got a lot of interesting things here. So I asked Gemini to actually all I did was I clicked the microphone and then I read the the actual title of each of these and the little description. And I read like the first, I don't know, 15 or 20, 25 of these. And then I asked Gemini, like, so if I'm starting like a new project, see here. So upon reviewing the complete application blueprint and in light of the user's significant existing development progress, as critical strategic reevaluation was performed. We identified a major risk in the full MVP approach, competing directly with established project management giants on task management features, which are a commodity. See, the issue that I was discussing with Gemini is that you see the engine is actually there's a billion companies that are working on this specific task of like Monday.com, ClickUp, Trello, Jira. All of these companies are providing this thing which I call an engine. Well, actually, I call it the scoreboard. So the scoreboard is basically a list of tasks. If you go into ClickUp, Monday.com, Jira, any of these things, and you go into like some project, then right away you're going to see we got a task list, we got the owner, we got the status, we got the due dates, we got some notes. I mean, it's crazy. So it's like, why are you going to reinvent this thing? See, nowadays, um, all right. So, all right, let's keep going. So we included that the application's true unique value proposition is not its task board, the scoreboard. Yeah, it's not this. This is not the unique value proposition. And then also, when we come to the idea of touch base, so if you go into a touch base, meaning the manager goes and talks to their subordinate and asks if they got their task done. I mean, relatively speaking, let's cut the tie right here. I'm just cutting this because my customer is not to convince people they should start using a to-do list app. My customer is something a little bit different. All right, so we concluded its priority guided thinking modules that facilitate strategic, okay, recommendation path forward. Based on this analysis, the final and strong recommendation is to pivot from the standalone application to a simplified, session-based thinking tool that integrates with existing platforms. Product Focus, a web-based tool that guides teams through the brainstorm choose objectives. Right. So what I'm saying is that there's primarily two problems that are faced by managers. One of the problem is in the steering wheel section. So the question is, do we have a good task list? So let's say that you're a manager and you go and you talk to your subordinate and you say, "Hey, what are you doing today?" And they're like, "There, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I'm not really sure how to do this, and I'm not really sure how to do that." And it's like, "Oh, sounds like you don't have like the best task list. All right. Now, what's the methodology behind this? Let's go back to my let's go to game flow. So when I teach coaching lessons, one of the things that we talk about is um, game strategy. Oh, it's in game strategy. Is game strategy. And the first thing that we talk about in game strategy is something called a deliberate practice. Deliberate practice, it is based on the concept that in order for you to succeed, you have to have a high level of skill, or what Thomas Buckles calls a high level of success. So if we go into the Buckholz drive model, what you can see is often your employees will have like a high level of effort. They will be very diligent. And so they don't need a huge amount of motivation. They already have a lot of motivation. The issue is that they are striving, but they are a hamster. So this video is Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's singing "Take out the paper and the trash." So it's like they're an ant, taking out the paper and the trash like an ant or just a hamster that's running around a hamster wheel. It's not going to get you too far regarding the levels of success. In order to improve your level of success, you have to have more knowledge, better skills, higher ability, better competency, and improved methods. And that is how you move from a low level of success to a leading level of success. We're going to put you to that honeybee section where you can fly, you can dance, you can make honey. So that is a really much better place to be. Question is, how do we get to this area? It means that we need training. So the idea of deliberate practice is to identify the categories that will help your employees to perform better, and then to divide those categories into either subcategories or into elements. And then once you have identified the elements, then you can design some exercises in order to work on those specific elements, which will help you in the categories or subcategories, and then will help you to improve your results. Now, with that thinking, then we start to actually build something. With when I work with my customers, then we start to build it. We say, okay, so what is it? What's the result you're trying to achieve? And then what are the categories of behaviors that you would need in order to get better results? And then can we break down that category into a smaller set of sub items? And then what are the elements that you need in order to be better at those sub items? And then we need to design some kind of training exercise about that specific item. This is a very, very common way of thinking about how to improve and how to help your employees. Now, how does that connect with what we were talking about? Well, the issue here is like when you talk to your employee and ask them if they have a really good task list and they say yes or no, maybe they say no or they're not sure, then that means that they don't know what to do. And if they don't know what to do in terms of actual skills and abilities, then it means that they don't have a good, like, they don't have exercises. You haven't, as a manager, you're supposed to be training the employees. So it means you have to provide for them some exercises that can help them to develop those skills so that they can complete the tasks. Now, in this way of thinking, what we're saying is one type of tasks on the task list is an exercise, and they're not sure which exercises they're supposed to be doing. So you have to help them to design exercises. Now, another type of task is based on the concept of, well, it could be OKR. OKR is, um, hmm, I'm not sure that OKR is useful exactly at this exact time. Let's talk about cube thinking, because cube thinking is very similar to deliberate practice, but rather than thinking about developing skills, we're thinking about how to break tasks down into smaller subtasks. Right. So let's say that you want to describe some areas in your life. For example, I want to enjoy a vacation in Rome. I want to finish my website. I want to find new employees and I want to onboard a new client. So then we pick one of those things and we put it horizontally. Right. So why is it called cube thinking? Because first, we start with your list of your to-do list, the things that you want to do, right? Because that's the issue we're talking about. So your employee says, well, I don't really have a good to-do list. Well, what do you mean you don't have a good to-do list? What do you need to do? And they say, well, I need to enjoy my vacation in Rome, finish the website, find a new employee, and onboard a new client. But they're like, but then they're like, well, I don't really know how to do that. Ah, all right. So let's break it down. So for the first example is go to Rome. So you can see this is the vertical in the cube thinking. So a cube is 3 dimensions. The first dimension was just listing out your specific to-do items. Then the second dimension is so that becomes horizontal. And then becomes vertical. So to go to Rome, number one, we need to decide on the locations and tourist sites of the trip. Then we figure out how many days I'll be there, then plan the hotels and restaurants, and then buy the tickets. So what's the third step? Why is it called cube thinking? Because we take this list and then we put that horizontally. And then now we're going to break this one down into an even smaller set of tasks. You see how you're pulling this one item out, and then now we have even small. Now you could have cards. So this is like beyond cube thinking. This goes into micro tasks. But anyways, so for example, to decide on the locations for a tourist site of a trip, to decide on the locations and tourist sites of the trip, we need to search on Google or TripAdvisor, read the articles and the comments, compare the photos, and send links to people coming with me on the trip, and then fit the locations within the schedule. Now, it's true that now we got AI that can see. The thing is with AI is that a lot of these thinking methodologies and thinking methods, uh, we just give it to the AI to do. We just tell them, hey, I want to go to Rome, and can you ask me 10 questions about the trip, or can you ask me 100 questions about the trip? And then as I answer your questions, then you can then tailor your next question to the based on the answers that I give you in order to figure out how I'm going to be able to have a trip to Rome. So that's the way that AI would do it now. So maybe thinking is not necessary because it's not like we're going to be living in a world that doesn't have AI. So why do we need to think? Finally, I just wanted to point out that like, what's the difference between cube thinking and this concept of OKR? Cube thinking is about mapping the terrain. So it means like, what's missing? The question is, your employee doesn't understand like what are the actual steps to getting this item done. And so sometimes what you have to do is you have to break down that item into smaller sub items in order for them to really understand how to do that. One way to do that is by using the objectives module. So as I was mentioning, the first concept about the problems that managers have is when they work with their subordinates and their subordinates are a little bit confused about how to get the task done, and they need to create a set of subtasks, or they're just not sure all of the different things that they need to do. So we need to have a thinking module that can help them to flesh out the entire objective and all of the different things that should be added to a to-do list, to a task list. The other direction that you might go in is when a manager talks to the executive. So they are talking to somebody above them, and because it's the manager who needs some alignment. The first one is all about alignment between the manager and the subordinate. And then in this one, it's about the manager and what's the other side? Superior? The manager and the superior. So we're going into the brainstorming module to figure out what objectives that we should pursue. Then after we've discussed a series of objectives that we might pursue, then we choose a series of objectives, and then we come back and then talk to specific team members, subordinates who are going to be working on those objectives. So as you can see here, we got the brainstorm is here, choose is here, and objectives module. So what Gemini is suggesting is the primary output is a well-defined task list that can be exported or sent directly to the user's existing PM tool. Now there's here it is, strategic advantage. This approach avoids direct competition, enhances the value of tools users already pay for, and focuses exclusively on project's unique strength. Target audience. The primary target market should be managers and teams who are already active users of project management software. Immediate action plan. The recommended next step is to pause development on the full MVP features, the internal scoreboard, and use the app development Trello board to plan the features for this leaner, more strategic, and faster to market project. What? All right. So, I mean, this doesn't have everything. This is just the executive summary. But what happened was I jumped onto Monday Dev, whatever it was, Monday Dev, Monday.com, and like I went through all their, I uploaded all their, not uploaded, I explained what types of templates they had. And then I said, okay, so how can we actually follow this project? Because before, when we're talking about Arrowhead, this is an actual piece of software that I was building. So we didn't necessarily need a Trello board, although we could use the Trello board for the features. All right. And then we also need a CEO dashboard. So I asked it, like, what do I need to do to manage this project? So I also need a to-do list, right? Based on these templates. So we go to the CEO dashboard. It says define the technical plan for the simplified objective builder MVP. And then what? So here it says go to use the app development Trello board to plan the features for this leaner, more strategic, and faster to market project. So it says design a single session user flow, research the Trello API for creating cards. What? Research the Trello API for creating cards. Research the Jira API for creating issues. Build the UI for the brainstorm module. Build the UI for the choose module. Build the UI for the objectives module. Okay, so what the issue is now is that, well, actually, I designed it when nobody was looking. I don't remember where it is though. Arrowhead screens. It's probably here. Yeah. So this document, it has like some of the early designs from a long, long time ago when I was first, yeah, when I was first thinking about this. And at that time, it was a big. Look at this. All the cute little game one, game two, game three. We had like it was like an arcade idea, and then I started to create the what would these screens look like. And then I tried to simplify it. Then we have the last version. Look at this. So I have this onboarding thing. So what happens is, okay, so this is the landing page. So you see the landing page. There's free credits, team meetings made interesting, claim credits, try games before business meetings, complete the game and get 3 credits back. Are you a pirate or an explorer? I still like this. Are you a pirate or an explorer? So pirates take market share. This is called red ocean. And explorers find markets without competitors. That's blue ocean. Then you put the name on your ship. And then we got the base camp. So what's the purpose of the project? What mark you? So this was like an earlier version of the onboarding process. Anyways, then this is the actual app that I've been building for the last couple months. Well, here's an older version design, apparently. Here's a newer version design. Anyways, so I've now completed a very, very simple wireframe. And what's happening now? So you're a manager. You need to understand the executives, what the executives are thinking, and provide them a clear set of objectives. Provide them with a clear set of objectives. Or you're a manager, you need your team to understand what needs to get done in order to complete those objectives. That's it. Right there. You're a manager. And you got to talk to the executive over top of you. You got to talk to your subordinates beneath you. What are you going to do? Right. So this is a much more focused app. And there's either, okay, so use these tools to make a clear task list with your current project management tool. And that's the kicker. So you currently have a project management tool. And what's the pain point? The pain point is that although, yes, we do have a project management tool, the question is how do we actually get a good set of tasks into the task list? All right, so direction. Direction is between the manager and the executive. Direction. So which direction are we going? And this is talking about headlights. All right. So the headlights, are we going in the right? Are we going the right way? It means direction. So this is where you want to have a little conversation. How we are going to achieve our project vision. So the executive says, "Hey, look, here's our project vision. What ideas do you have?" And instead of saying, "Well, I got an idea," instead of saying that, what you're going to say is, all right, so when I think about brainstorming objectives, I use the concepts from Tom Buchholz's book, Create Crucial Insight. All right, so we go into his app, and then all right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is imitate and trends. So what are other companies doing? What are our competitors doing? What's like the best practices in this area? What is actually going on? Let's get some benchmarking. Let's figure out what is going on. And then after we have a good understanding of the landscape, now we start to ideate. We start to come up with some ideas. Now after we finish ideation, now we're gonna start, okay, so what should we probably ignore? You know, there are things that didn't work, they won't work. There's a way to like wasting our time. Can we list some don't do that ideas? At least figure out what other people have tried and failed. Then we jump into the integrate. So how can you take the above examples and find ways to shorten the distance and speed things up regarding connections with customers, providers, and internal clients? How can we do this better? And then interfere. Now that you are doing better, what are you going to do to slow competitors? It's easier to pass cars going in slow motion. How can we slow them down? So this is the conversation you're going to have with the executives. Now, maybe you're going to have this conversation first with your team, or maybe you're going to do some soul searching, or maybe you're going to use the AI. You're going to come up with some answers to these questions. And that's the deal. You need to do the brainstorming. So the brainstorming is all about brainstorming with Tom Buchholz. Five eyes is what it's at, where it's at when it comes to figuring out what objectives to pursue. So you can see here. So if we're going to achieve, how are we going to achieve the project vision? So you're going to click brainstorm. How did that happen? Why do we have something that says with? Must have been five eyes. Brainstorm with five eyes. I mean, technically that would be with five L's. Yeah, we might have to change the font for that. All right, so then you finish like having your brainstorming session, and now we need to make a choice. How do we make a choice? Again, this is from Tom's work. So we jump into Tom's work and we use the concepts from his uh, state impact checklist. This is a simplified version of his state impact checklist. The idea is that what are the scenarios being considered? So obviously from here we're going to have some trends. Maybe we're going to copy some best practices or trends. Maybe we have some ideas, and then maybe we figured out how to integrate those ideas, or we came up with some new ideas here, and then we talked about here. So we got We got 5 or 6 different ideas. And then what are the scenarios being considered? Okay, so we list those 5 or 6 ideas. What are the similarities and differences between the scenarios? How do you decide on what aspects of the scenarios are more or less important to consider? And then evaluate the differences based on those important aspects. Make statements that support your decision. Boom. So these are the probably the two of the most important lessons that I learned from Tom's book, but there are more. Now, okay, so that's here, right? So that's brainstorming and choose. Now, what you got is you got a set of objectives, just like we just mentioned. So in here, we finished the brainstorming module, we finished the choose module, meaning we know which direction to head. Now we need to start steering, which means we do the objectives module. Oops. Oopsie daisies. All right. So now if you already have your objectives, then you go straight to alignment, which is you want to have a discussion with your team members. What we're going to do to get it done. What we're going to do to get it done, to get it done. Okay, we'll just leave that like right now. So you go straight to the objective and task list. And then finally, it's going to connect to your project management tool. You already have a project management tool. My market is people who already are using project management tools. The pain point is not the project management tool. In fact, even if I created a project management tool, it doesn't mean that people are going to use my internal task list because they already have a project management tool. The problem is brainstorming and coming up with the objectives to pursue and then breaking down those objectives into a task list. All right, so this is back to these two critical ideas: cube thinking. How do we create some kind of user interface that can help people to go through cube thinking, and then they can also go through this thing called deliberate practice. See, the objectives and key results is I don't think it's that useful to think of it just as objectives and key results when you're doing the brainstorming because the objectives means like okay, so we have to think about what are the objectives we're going to pursue. All right, so what is it? This list does not help you to write down your objectives. And then the key results. Okay, so the key results means what do we need to do in order for us to complete the objectives? And I've always felt like I can't quite get my head around this OKR methodology. I understand. I mean, it's clear. I will achieve this objective by this date by doing this activity this many times in this period. And it's like I find it's not the most useful way to do planning. And I feel like cube thinking is like you got to break it down into one. I mean, it's almost identical, but for some reason, I feel like once you have finished your cube thinking, and then you want to like draw out a specific route, or once you have figured out the exact um, with deliberate practice, once you figured out the exact like thing that you want to work on, and the element that you want to work on, and then the exercises that you want to work on, then you can use OKRs in order for that specific route. So it's not the brainstorming tool. It's actually just it's the implementation part. All right. So and then so but then Tom Buckles, he did a much better job in actually giving you specific questions that can help you to really identify those objectives and then to choose some of those objectives. And then finally, you're going to discuss those objectives. All right. So now this is my little addition to the the experience. Oh, is that goody good? It's time to go. I might need to go. Let me just check if I got a. I think I might have a French lesson. Did I get a message? It's either now or it's in an hour from now. It is bonjour, bonjour. It is maybe right now. Let me stop screen for a minute. Anyways, I'll finish this talk tomorrow.